Hello and welcome to the Rum Revival. It's Arminder here, and in this video I'm sharing one of my favorite ways to drink rum, and that's by drinking it with some cold beer. Because why drink one alcoholic beverage when you can drink two at the same time? Now, I love pouring myself a small little shot of rum, taking a sip of it, and then chasing it with a sip of beer, and kind of just going back and forth until you're all done. And it's not that complicated, but when you've got the right beer for the right rum, it's kind of sublime. So in this video, I'm sharing a number of rum and beer pairings that I think work particularly well together. And while I will be showing specific bottles, it's less about that specific rum and that specific beer, and more about them representing certain beer styles and certain types of rum that pair well together. Now let's start off with the very first pairing. And look, I absolutely love and adore unaged cane juice rums, especially in warm weather, and especially the big bold ones that are higher in proof. And that includes many rum agricoles from Martinique, the Clarins from Haiti, and all the great wild fermented unaged rums that are coming out of Mexico, like the Pelacañas Llamarada. This is a wild fermented, pot distilled cane juice rum from Jalisco. And it's got this really kind of bold, sweet, smoky barbecue and ash thing going on. And underneath that, there's like this really nice note of sugarcane and like cane sweetness. It's just a delightful rum. Now, with any kind of pairing, you can go in one of two directions, right? You can complement some of the flavors or notes that you're getting in the rum, or you can contrast and go in the opposite direction. And for this particular pairing, I'm contrasting and keeping it super simple. So to balance out the bold, unaged cane juice notes of these kind of rums, I'm going with a nice cold can of lager. Now what I have here is Monterey beer from Alvarado Street Brewery out of Monterey here in California. But honestly, any kind of quality craft lager will totally work with this pairing, though I would maybe avoid like a Pilsner, which will have a little bit more of a hoppy bite and bitterness to it. It might work, but I just think a clean lager is like the best thing here to kind of contrast everything that's going on in a big, bold, unaged cane juice rum. So I got my beer, pour myself a little shot. Cheers. That is, to me, summer in two glasses, or a shot glass in a can. You totally initially, obviously, with the rum, get that hit of that kind of barbecue smoke thing, but it never gets so big, bold, and intense because you immediately take that sip of the beer, and the beer just kind of lifts and brightens up all those flavors, right? The carbonation just kind of takes all those heavy notes and just kind of breathes life into them. And here's the thing, like it kind of cleanses the palate in a way, kind of resetting it for another sip. Now, this pairing of lager and unaged cane juice rum was kind of the inspiration for putting this whole video together, right? This is kind of like the primary way that I drink rum, and actually the primary way that I drink beer, like during the summertime, right? And I figured that there's got to be like other really great beer and rum pairings out there. So yeah, what I did was, of course, drink a lot of beer and rum to kind of figure that out. And when I started, my mind kind of immediately went to Jamaican rums. I love them, you love them. So I drank a lot of them, right, to figure out what pairs well with them. And I realized, like Jamaican rums aren't a monolith, right? They've got a huge amount of variety amongst them. But I want to focus right now on the kind of lower ABV, lower ester Jamaican rums that are out there, the ones that are more widely available and more approachable. These are the ones that are maybe fruit forward, but they aren't like super funky, high ester or acidic or sharp, none of that kind of stuff. Good examples of this would be Appleton, Signature, and Worthy Park Select. Both of these are 40% ABV, aged just a handful of years, but you do get like a little bit of molasses and oak quality and like this caramelized fruit quality to them as well that I think are just delightful. And obviously once I figured out that I was going to go with these rums, then I had to drink a lot of beer, tough assignment, and tried a bunch of different beer styles with them. And ultimately I've decided, I think the style that pairs the best with them, at least for me, and hopefully you will feel the same way, I think the best style would be a Hefeweizen. Yeah, a German wheat beer. I have here Weihenstephaner, but I think any Hef will probably do. They're made with some wheat, and they're fermented with a certain type of yeast strain that creates a lot of kind of banana and clove notes, which I think will pair really well with the caramelized fruit and baking spice notes of these kind of rums. I can pour myself a little bit of Worthy Park Select here. All right, cheers. Ooh, oh, that is so nice. It's so refreshing. Oh man, it's really kind of bananas two ways, right? It's a rich caramelized banana first with the sip of the rum, and then it's like a bright, spritzy kind of banana essence afterwards. Just a really nice kind of joyful experience. I'm gonna describe this drinking experience as joyful. Yeah, why not? So they're kind of very kind of complementary, but there's also kind of the intensity that's complementary here too, right? 40% rum isn't going to be big, bold. It's obviously a little thin on the palate, but a hef also, due to how it's made, just feels light and bright and very summery as well. So they kind of complement, like one isn't overpowering the other. And honestly, drinking these two is kind of as maybe tropical as you can get when it comes to beer and rum. I mean, like, yeah, sure, there's like pineapple banana flavored kettle sours out there, but like we ain't messing with that kind of stuff here, that's for sure. You know, not hating if you like that kind of stuff, but I never got into that stuff. So if we're talking like adjunctless beers, you know, more kind of traditional straightforward beers, I think this is kind of as tropical as you can get. So those were the more kind of easy and approachable Jamaican rums. But what about those big, bold, high ABV, high ester, funky, and acidic Jamaican rums? Like, what pairs really well with those kind of rums? You know, those kind of rums like Hampden Estate, HLCF Classic, or Hampden's, one of their great houses. These are a lot higher in ABV than the other rums. They're a lot higher ester than those other rums, and they can be pretty intense and very flavorful. So, of course, the question is, what pairs really well with these kind of bold rums? Well, I'm actually going to go with something that's less about matching the exact flavor profile, you know, which we did with the Hefeweizen. Instead, we want to match some of the kind of bold intensity of these rums with a beer style that also has a bold intensity. So for this pairing, I'm going to go with a double IPA. I've got the one and only Pliny the Elder here, which is a 8% double IPA from Russian River Brewery out of Santa Rosa here in California. And of course, there's plenty of other great double IPAs that will work here with this particular pairing. But it should definitely be something that's, you know, full-bodied, obviously very hop-forward and got a good amount of bitterness to it, and not hazy. Don't do that. You know, West Coast all the way, baby. Perfect pour, folks. All right, so I got a little pour of the HLCF Classic here. Cheers. I mean, come on, that is so damn good. That is such a great experience and a great journey on the palate. So with the HLCF Classic, right, get a little pineapple, oak, cough medicine, acidic kind of vinegar notes. And those are pretty kind of in your face and intense, right? And once the sip of the beer kicks in, right, the carbonation kind of lightens up and brightens up all those notes and that intensity to a certain extent. It never gets like super like cleansed because the barrage of the hops and the bitterness kick in. The overall kind of malt character of the double IPA kind of builds on the boldness of the rum, right? So it never kind of dips down, in my opinion, and it kind of continues to kind of take the intensity of the rum and kind of carries it down all the way through the finish. Now, here's the thing. I think it's worth calling out that this is a pretty potent combination, not just from the bold flavors. I mean, like in terms of alcohol, right? This is a 60% ABV rum. This is a 8% beer. That's a lot of booze, right? So take your time with this one, right? Like slow your roll, just sit back, relax, and chill. And just enjoy like one of these and one of these. You don't need to do more than that. I think you'll be good to go. But obviously, I'm not your dad. You can do whatever the hell you want. Now, with the previous pairings in this video, I had started obviously with the rum first and found beers that paired well with them. But for this final set of pairings, I actually started the other way around. See, back in my heavy beer drinking days, I absolutely adored porters and stouts. So I really wanted to see if I could find some rums that paired well with them. And let's be clear, I'm not talking about porters and stouts that have tons of like adjuncts in them, you know, like infused with like coffee, vanilla, peanut butter, coconut, or marshmallows. None of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about like simple, straightforward, classic examples of porters like Black Butte Porter from Deschutes out of Bend, Oregon, and Old Rasputin Imperial Stout from North Coast Brewing out of Fort Bragg here in California. Now, like many other great porters and stouts, these have notes of chocolate and coffee, There's a little creaminess, all coming from the malt that's used to make these. And then on top of that, there's like a roasty element, a roasty kind of note coming from those malts as well. Now with the porter, that roast element's gonna be a lot lighter, but when you jump over to the stout and the imperial stouts, like the older Rasputin here, you're gonna get much more of a roast forward experience, and the coffee becomes much more espresso-like. Now in doing research for this video, and by research I mean drinking a lot of beer and rum, I wanted to first see if I could find some rums that paired really well with the chocolate and coffee notes of these beers. And I found that rums from Guyana, Demerara rums, pair particularly well with these kind of beers because they themselves often sometimes have these notes of like chocolate and coffee. Now if you wanted to go with something fancy, you could go with like the Eldorado High Ester blend, or the Port Morant cast strength release from a few years ago. But for something a little more affordable, you can go with Hamilton 86, or I think what I'm gonna do right now is the Eldorado 15. This has some light coffee, some light chocolate, a little bit of smokiness. Now these rums, frankly, I think pair really well with both the porters and the stouts, but what I'm gonna do right now is actually try the porter, the blackberry porter, with some Eldorado 15. Look at that color on that foam. That is beautiful. Cheers. Oh yeah. The richness of the Eldorado 15 is brightened up by the carbonation of the porter, but the porter kind of like further carries on and like bolsters the chocolate and coffee, and then it kind of accents it with a little bit of roasty element, which is kind of nice. It adds another dimension to the Eldorado 15. And I gotta tell you, Eldorado 15 at 40% ABV has never tasted as richer and kind of like decadent than right now, right? Because when you contrast it immediately after taking a sip of this with some beer, the beer being mostly water, it will feel very thin and light. And so this suddenly takes on a quality of richness and just dessertiness that I don't know if Eldorado 15 has ever had to this particular kind of level. Now, I think if I wanted a bolder, more richer dessert experience, I'd maybe switch over to a higher ABV Eldorado, like the High Ester blend, and then switch over to the like Imperial Stout. And then you're gonna get richness on both ends, higher ABV on both ends, and it will be much more of a maybe decadent kind of like post-dinner dessert kind of experience. I'm gonna move these out of the way because I also wanted to see if I could find a rum or rums that paired particularly well with the roasty elements of both the porter and the Imperial Stout. And so I found that rums that are aged in heavily charred ex-bourbon barrels work really well with these beers. A good example would be Mount Gay's Black Barrel. This is a pot column blend of rums from Barbados that are aged in ex-bourbon barrels and then finished for I think about 6 months in heavily charred ex-bourbon barrels. So we're gonna crack open the Old Rasputin. Oh man, that is a very nice and thick rum or beer. Buddy, I've had so much beer and rum right now. And the Black Barrel here will work great with the roasty notes of the porter for sure, but here I'm gonna try it with the kind of more bolder roasty notes of the Imperial Stout. Cheers. Okay, so what I really like about this pairing is this might be, of all the pairings I've done so far, with the Imperial Stout being like what, this is 9-10% ABV, and being so bold, this might be the first pairing where the beer is the more intense experience than the rum, because Black Barrel is only 43% ABV. It's very light and thin. But what's great about that is it allows you to start kind of small and light and build up to a bolder experience, where before with the other pairings we kind of started rich and intense and then kind of refreshed and kind of got lighter, or with the double IPA and the bold Jamaicans we kind of stayed kind of consistent. Here we kind of build up to something really nice. What happens is you take a sip of the Black Barrel, on the finish of it, there's a burgeoning kind of charred smoke note, and then when you kind of take the sip of the beer, it kind of takes that charred smoke note and just kind of blows it up, right? Obviously there's the chocolate and the coffee there, but there's so much roasty elements there. So it's kind of like a reverse experience from the first pairing, and I love that. Well, there you go, folks. That was my video on beer and rum pairings. I hope you try some of them, and I hope you enjoy them. Now, what I'd like to know is, Are there certain beer and rum pairings that you absolutely love and adore? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to support this channel, then check out my Patreon page where I have a bunch of exclusive content that I think you might enjoy. And if you sign up for one of our paid tiers there, you get access to the Rum Revival Discord server, which is a fun community of rum lovers who love to chat about rum. I hope to see you there. And thank you so much for watching. Catch y'all next time. Cheers.